Welcome back to the Killzone podcast with Beeranid 40K. Now we've got a special episode for you today. Normally each episode has a guest of some kind, but today it's just you and old Papa Beeranid, so pull up a chair, we're going to have a little chat. Today's episode topic is all about advanced tips for building competitive tournament lists, and I'm going to take you step by step through a three kind of phase targeted process that's going to help you put something stronger on the table. But just something to get out of the way here, be warned at the beginning, as you know, even the best of times, the Killzone podcast is about real talk for competitive kill team. And, well, this episode especially might have some things some of you might not really like to hear. It's just some kind of hard truths. Just know that this episode is for tournament players or those interested in tournaments. So if you're just rolling dice on Fridays with some buddies, none of this applies. Hey, just keep on keeping on. And enjoy the game as you play it, because casual play is a great way to enjoy the game too. Not taking anything away from you here. It's just that this is a guide to kind of tournament success specifically, building better lists. I have a lot of thoughts in this area, and I've touched on them, little bits here, little bits there. I do an interview, this bit in this podcast, whatever. But today my hope is to consolidate key information and kind of like pull back the curtain. I want to show you what I think should be your compass. And since that's the case, I'm not going to dilute things or waste anybody's time, kind of like sugarcoating things and whatnot. I know that everybody has feelings about stuff and that there's a tendency to try to, not hurt people's feelings. But the hope is that we're all just mature enough to look at some tough talk for just a little bit that actually helps you win more games. So we'll start with some of that unfortunate truth right at the top. Before we jump into the three-step process, I want to lay out kind of the groundwork for a proper mindset leading in. So some things to keep in mind. Number one, you're actually going to have to do the work here. I'm challenging you to put this into action. So Zenith is coming up on the Command Point Discord, and with it, there's going to be plenty of blitz tournaments, prep RTTs, all this kind of stuff for you to play in, even during quarantine, at home in your underwear. This is a perfect way for you to go out and try this process today out, starting fresh. I know, however, a lot of people are going to be tempted by something shiny that they find on the road, and either that or they're not going to do the things I tell you about today all the way. I do this myself. I have always tried challenge lists, weird jank, builds that I played just to be different, and, sometimes it works too. But my honest advice to you is don't get distracted. Stay the course, try this out, and don't do this halfway either. Don't say, well, I like step number 2, but I'm going to ignore step number 1 and number 3. Give yourself the best chance you've ever had and try this process. You're kind of going to see what leads to, some of the best lists that have been around being built, and hopefully lead to you creating even better stuff. So, try this process. Give yourself that chance. If you do it just once, I'll be happy. After that, feel free to do, some of this and leave other stuff out, but just give it one attempt, fully loaded, and see if your results in the next tournament aren't better than your last. I've always tried to give value in my YouTube videos and podcasts, and it would be easy to just sit on this information and not share it. But the hope is that you actually gain something from the time you spend here with me today. This is a reveal. Think about it like that. You should be taking notes. You should save this. Come back to it again and again. Use it to guide you, because if you have solid fundamentals and you put this on top, you're going to be terrifying to face. So mindset thing number 2 that I need you to do, just mindset-wise before we jump in, is to repeat after me. I am no longer a blank Drukhari player. For example, insert your own faction, whatever it is that you play. I am no longer a Space Marine player. I'm no longer a Guard player. Whatever it is that you play, and the kind of the thing that we're hoping to achieve by this realization, this thing is that now you're moving into advanced kind of list building. You need to jump into each packet fresh, kind of agnostic when it comes to the faction. Again, this might be something that people don't want to be true, but it's true. For a long time, I myself identified as a Tyranid and Genestealer cult player. It's in the name. That's why I'm Beeranid. Rhymes with Tyranid. But being married to the faction, yeah, it worked out for me a couple times. But LVO 2019, I took top 8 with Tyranids. The next year, they were not the right team. I tried to force them anyway because emotionally, I thought of myself as a Tyranid player, and emotionally, that's what I wanted to play. But I took 35th place doing that. And imagine, one year you're top 8, next year 35th. It was because I forced the faction rather than beating the pack. The board was way too open, and I knew better than to take Tyranids, but I took them anyway, and every game was a struggle. I even got tabled on stream. So I didn't follow the mindset tip I'm sharing now, and learn from my mistake basically. Now that you're kind of going in and you're widening your horizon, you might need to borrow some stuff, build things specifically for a tournament. I mean, most of us are playing on TTS anyway, so it's right there for you right now here in quarantine. You can go build any team, anything, see how it's going for you without, too much invested. And hey, who knows, maybe you'll end up building that team in real life. But the TLDR, my honest advice to you guys listening to this and wanting the best results that you can get, now that you're an advanced player, we're assuming that you're getting there, and we're talking about advanced list building, the models need to become just really cool looking numbers. That's what they are. They're numbers. You'll fall in love with whatever you're playing eventually. Trust me. A lot of people, they'll play a team they don't really like, when they're doing the tournament kind of stuff. They'll just say, oh, this is super strong, I'm going to have to play this anyway, but you'll usually fall in love with it and end up coming to really like it. So just know that now that you're an advanced player, and we're talking about advanced list building, the models need to become just really cool looking numbers. If your favorite team isn't a killer on the next tournament packet, you need to be okay with that. Some people are just lucky. Eldar, Oryx, Admech, Guard, these kinds of versatile teams, they always seem to be able to flex no matter what the new pack throws at them. So if one of those are your favorite team and that's what you started with and that's what you play, you got lucky. You might be able to do your whole career with a single faction and do pretty well, but even still, I'd advise that you look at each packet fresh, just faction agnostic. I'm not a Space Marine player, I'm not a Drukhari player, whatever it is. No emotions guiding your decisions. And go through today's process to make your decision, an informed one, and your roster as competitive as possible. So last part of the groundwork discussion. I don't want you to think that today's info invalidates anything else that we've covered in past episodes. It's building on top of that. So, it's in addition to it. It's not ripping up the pages. You'll still be beating the packet first. You'll still probably want a T4 counter and a T3 counter list in your roster, usually, like Shane Smith talked about on an earlier episode of the Killzone podcast. All of that still applies, so just know that this is just an advanced process to add on top. So I think that we have covered that. Now that the mindset is in place, that's out of the way, let's build some stuff that makes holes in teeth. All right, so now we're moving into the 3-step process. Step number 1 actually has 2 things. So this is we're going to cover these in little bits. So think of this as kind of like a dialogue tree that you have 2 options on, but you must follow the rest of it depending on what you pick, okay? So the first thing, we'll just make this as clear and simple as possible, is option A. You have a list or a build, an archetype, whatever, that can fail every dice roll and still win. Normally, we call this positional type teams. So that's option A of step number 1, is a build that can fail every dice roll and still win. This is not going for kills, things like that. Why is Tau strong? Why have I been doing good with drone spam? It's because, like I've said in other episodes, I have these drones. They're playing positional. They're scoring me points on secondaries and primary objectives. And I get to roll 40 dice in a single shooting phase on top of that, and more with Overwatch perhaps. But if they fail every single one of those, it doesn't matter. I'm not built to kill. Okay, that's not what I'm trying to accomplish with option A. It's very much not dependent on the dice. Okay, now when we move into option B, now all of a sudden you're saying, okay, I'm going to depend on the dice. This is usually more of a killy type thing, an aggressive, or not necessarily aggressive, an offensive type build would be the way to put it. But option B, you're saying, okay, dice are required, but if dice are required for the build, such as many kill-based elite type things like we saw with hold and kill, or you're doing stuff, there's a lot of secondaries that favor you. You're looking for stacking objectives, and you're looking for it to have enough redundancy and efficiency that say 8 out of 9 models can fail every attempt, like we were doing with number 1, but if just 1 succeeds, it's a lot of points. So let's kind of unpack this a little bit. Number 1, once again, just reiterating, you can fail every dice roll and still win. You're going positional. Dice don't matter. It's okay. If it's all upside for you. If you get kills, that's great. Option B is saying, okay, kills are required. Dice must be there, but you are stacking. It's only available to you if you're able to stack points happening for a single kill, and then you have enough redundancy in there that you have 10 guys that can all score this. A single kill gets you 5 points or more, and you have 5 guys that are able to do that, or 9 guys, whatever it happens to be, so that if all of them failed except for just one, you're still okay. That's like the redundancy effect. So what we're doing here in step number 1, actually, the TLDR, is dice mitigation. When we talk about, beat the packet, not the player, all this kind of stuff, this is a key step to that. This is what takes the game outside of like a 50-50 of just like, oh, I got lucky on the dice here. Oh, I didn't get lucky on the dice there. If you're looking at somebody that has a greater than 50% win rate, they're either doing this consciously or they've kind of fallen into it luckily with, a team build or something like that. Maybe they're running a meta kind of a build. They got something off the internet and they just built that and they're playing it. But this is there somewhere in the list. So what you have to do now, you realize that this is kind of like a dialogue tree. You have choice A and choice B. You follow the rest of the way based on which one of those that you picked. Okay, and why it was important to get into not being married to the faction is what's going to help you make this choice most of the time is the packet. Because, hey, you can go either way. So what you're looking for is the stacks. What has an easier time here? What is more competitive? What has the advantage? Option A, positional, or option B, offensive. So just one more time. Option A can fail every dice roll and still be okay. Option B says, I need to make it work one time in a round because that scores everything. And if I can do that with just 1 out of 8 of my options, I'm still okay. Some other ways that, a thing that's kind of important to that, another strength would be if you can find something with hyper efficiency. Like you look at flayed ones, they're rerolling all failed hits, rerolling all failed wounds. That's super efficient. Or something like Space Wolf veterans with lightning claws. Again, so they're coming up, they charge or get charged, they're hitting on 2s. All right, anything that hits, they're now wounding on 3s or whatever it happens to be, rerolling all failed because of the lightning claw. And now, okay, they get some of that through. There's AP2, so a lot of stuff won't get saves, or if they do, it's maybe on a 6 or something like that. Okay, that's great. That's what you have going on there, is the efficiency with option B. You need to be standing on an objective, scoring a point, shooting a guy on an objective, taking a point away from them. When that guy dies, that gives you kill 1, kill more on a primary, if that's possible. If it's still not a kill primary thing, then okay, that scored death from afar or hip shot. It was their leader or a specialist. That's another point. It dropped a bounty token. It was a specialist or something, so that's high profile. Like all of these things stack to where that one kill got you a lot of points. And you have several guys in the list. Each of those are able to do this, right? So let's look at something that I've done in the past. My plasma pistol Astartes. This is something where you take death from afar, which is a kill at long range, and you're always staying about 12 inches away because against melee teams, you know that they're going to charge you anyway, so you're making them fail charges, and you're now shooting to where any kill potentially procs that secondary, so that's a thing. And then you would have something like Bounty Hunter, which now that kill drops a token. If you can pick that token up, you score a point. Or High Profile, where if that was a specialist, that kill makes you score another point. So now that's 2 points on a kill. It was kill 1, kill more primary, so that's now 4 points on that single kill. Or let's say it was a leader that you killed. That would be, in some packets, up to 5 points in turn 1. So you could have like 7 points off of a kill. That's when killy is possible, is when you can stack it like that and have that kind of efficiency that's going in there. And again, that efficiency is breaking down the doors. You're looking at things like flayed ones that are rerolling hits, rerolling wounds. The dice is mitigated. So that is step one, is dice mitigation. It's just you kind of have two choices on how to do that. But there's no betweens. Like with Tau, I'm never going to place myself when I'm going positional in a position where I must kill unless there's tremendous upside, like something such as cut off the head, kill the enemy leader. Because I can reliably do that, and I have 2 to 3 chances per phase, and it's a diminishing tactic or a diminishing secondary, so I can usually get that in the limited window where I need to. So if I have 3 rails, and I'll score max on that if I can kill in turn 1 or turn 2, that's 6 chances to get that where only 1 needs to happen. I feel safe at that moment going with that. But usually, other than that, as Tau, I'm not putting myself in that position to where a dice roll or something really matters. I want to win on positionals and have that upside to where I'm just rolling dice on top. It's just icing on the cake. If I get lucky and I get 6s or whatever it happens to be and stuff dies, that's awesome. But it's not going to ruin my tournament run if it doesn't come. So that's option A. Option B is acknowledging, yes, I am putting myself in a position where dice matter, but you are making it to where a single kill gives you a lot of points, and you have enough redundancy in the list to carry it to where all of the guys except 1 can fail, and you're okay. So I've said this a bunch of times so that hopefully you kind of get it. I'm not the best at explaining things. I think that I don't know if this is, like I said, it's kind of an advanced concept, but I think that it's the way to go. Like if you're taking a list that has to kill, you need to acknowledge that and build in this way, and you need to be able to look at the pack and realize if that's available or not for you. If it's not, you don't go this way. Okay, you have to go positional at that point. If positional is just going to get slaughtered because there's, hold and kill and all this stuff, primaries, and stack and kill secondaries and all this, and none of those points are going to be available to you, all of a sudden, the other player has more of the win condition available to them than you have, so it's not smart to then go positional. That's why it's important to go in faction and build agnostic. You're going to have preferences as a player. You're going to have things that you like more than others, but you need to go into each packet and find which of these 2 is the stronger, and then build 100% towards that way. Usually. There are some things, there have been packets to where flex was really important. Like if you look at why Drukhari did so well in the Transatlantic Open, the mandrakes were just insane because it's like, okay, deep striking was important, they could deep strike. It was a very open board, so shooting was going to matter a lot. Well, they have mitigation on their models to where it's -1 to hit base, -2 if they're in cover, -3 if they're long range. So the other guys could not hit them. But they have great shooting, so they were able to shoot back on that very open board and get kills themselves. And then when things started getting tight, well, hey, that same model does really good things in melee. But even with all of that said, what was that leaning at more? If you look at that, you can identify, you can say, well, it was doing both, but it was actually, I think, a option B team. That was a kill-based kind of a team. And it makes sense because in that packet, the primary objective format was hold 1, kill 1, hold more. So killing was an important thing to be able to do on that pack. It was 33.3% of the win condition. So there are things sometimes where it kind of strays a little bit from this, but in that, even at like the example of the most strayed that I could find would be something like that, it's still, I think, 100% clearly conforms to either option A or option B. And you're going to see when you look at different teams that have done really well through time that they're either going one or the other. Hormigaunt spam that won LVO 2017 or whatever it was, 2018. What was that? That was option A. It was positional. Hormigaunts don't kill. They're not there to kill. They get to roll a bunch of dice when they're in there. Once they've made it in, they are hitting on 4s, re-rolling 1s, and you have, 5 guys on one dude. Yeah, that's a lot of dice. You're probably going to get a kill. But if none of that goes, you're okay. That's when you can play that way, that's when a list like that is good. Unfortunately, there's been a lot of stuff where that was not a valid way to play, and that's why we haven't seen Tyranids do super well in a long time, because that's kind of what they're geared at. That's what they do strongest, is that pure positional kind of play. So let's look at like Shane Smith's Astartes that won the Bay Area Tournament Simulation, BAO. Again, what is that going at? Well, he's got Black Templars. He's doing his charges. He's getting in there. He's super hard to kill himself. And it's a packet that is hold one, hold more, kill one, kill more. So he's getting in there, and then he's got Power Fists and Lightning Claws and all this kind of stuff that's getting kills. That's his T4 list. What is it when you look at T3? You're doing Blood Angels. Blood Angels are getting in there, and it's the same kind of a thing. They have guns, so they can shoot if they're out. They're trying to work towards the kill-win condition outside of combat. When they get in, they're +1 to wound. So, they're usually already wounding T3 on 3s. Now, as a Marine with Blood Angels, they're wounding T3 on 2s. Again, super killy. And then you can have 5 guys in there that have 5 attacks each, and it's only like 80 points of your list. So again, clearly points at killy, option B. If you look at all the lists that have done really well, unless somebody got kind of lucky, it's all either option A or option B. Elliot Miller's Plasma Spam. What is he doing? The meta is really a lot about Marines. People are bringing a lot of Marines at that Nova tournament. Okay, so he takes 8 plasmas in a single list and just wipes the board. What is that? That's option B. He had it to where, no matter what happens, I have the bodies, so I'm able to hold objectives. But he had a tremendous upside knowing that he had almost as many plasmas, or he had more plasmas than the guy had Marines. He's going to get some kills there after enough dice are rolled. And there's the redundancy to where even if he's getting models killed, he's okay. So that's the thing to start with here. Option A, option B. Option A, we traditionally think of as positional. Option B, we traditionally think of as killy. But you can't just go and be killy unless you're doing dice mitigation. That is what step number 1 is, dice mitigation. Understanding and controlling how dice will affect you on the board. So kind of an addendum here. When you look at this, hopefully now you see the value of numbers. Why are numbers important? It's not just about bodying the other guy off objectives. It's not just about, having more than them. Oh, they can't kill me by the time that this thing runs out. What it's actually about is redundancy. That's all it is. You have more chances to meet condition 1B with 8 plasma guardsmen than you do with 3 plasma Astartes, right? You're rolling more dice. Each of those dice points at the win condition bigly, will get you 5 points or something like that for a kill. That's when you're going killy. So 8 plasma guard, better than 3 plasma Astartes at that, hitting that win condition, until you take those plasma Astartes, bump that to 4 models that you're dedicating to plasma, and you put 2 plasma pistols on each of them, because you can fire them both now. Suddenly you have the same odds as those 8 guardsmen. And this is kind of the key to running elite teams, is going killy. And, like I said, kind of that first step, more simplified, managing dice and leveraging redundancy. You have a roadmap to it now, and you have to, just go at this understanding how it's done. This is why I think people have struggled with elites, is they have not put 2 and 2 together yet. That you must be stacking if you're going elites. A single guy needs to get you, 3-4 points or something for a kill. That needs to be what's there. If it's not, don't run elites. Again, this is some of the unfortunate truth kind of a thing that people don't like to hear. But you know what? The Zenith pack allows this. There's so much ability in there for things to work their magic that a lot more is viable than some other packs. It's unfortunate, but the way it's made a lot of packets will clearly favor one of these 2, not both. So you just need to go in and figure out which one it is. Look at the secondaries. Look at the win condition. Is it hold 1, hold 2, hold more? Is it hold one, hold more, kill one, kill more? Is it some kind of a weird thing like they're doing with some commanders builds now, where it's like hold one, hold more, kill one, kill more, kill one with a commander, where there's an 18-point cap, and it's like, okay, well, now I don't even need to hold not one objective one time. I'm going to have a guy with a gun on there, of course, because I can see this other objective. I know he's going to go there, and I'm going to be rolling a lot of dice at him while he's doing this. But it's not mandatory. That's just, again, icing on the cake. You're winning on the kills. That one guy doing his thing gets you a lot of points. That's like 3 points on primary if you get a commander to kill. So it's like, all right, let's do the what is it, crisis commander or whatever it is, something to that effect, something that has psychic and big guns, whatever it happens to be. If they just do it once, that's 3 points on the primary before you even get to secondaries. So it's like, dude, you can max off just one model doing a thing. That's insane. So, you got to look at the pack. The pack is your guide. It's not about, I like this team. Oh, this team looks so cool. Oh, but I have the models to play this. So many people get burned by that. They're otherwise great players, and they go in, and the list was almost good enough, but they were missing like one or two models or something. They didn't quite have the redundancy that they needed. So again, we're playing on TTS. There's really no excuse here. If you want to play the hardest list that you can go and make that. And by hardest list, I don't mean most difficult. I mean the most gross to play against. And again, kind of why are we looking at this? It's because you're moving away from jank. There are jank things that you can take that's like, oh, haha, I did this and it's cheese and blah, blah, blah. This is about solid. This is about making solid builds. And if you start with step one, you say there's two options for me, positional or offensive, and these are the rules. Positional must not be beholden to dice. Option B says, okay, I am beholden to dice. However, I have mitigated that to the point to where, I have a lot of redundancy. It doesn't matter too much. I just need one thing to go through, and I'm rolling at that with 2 shots each on 8 guys every round. That's 16 chances for just, okay, I just need, to hit on 2s, and I'm re-rolling 1s, and then if it hits, I'm wounding on 2s. Do you see what I mean? You're successful on a 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and re-rolling 1s. Then you go to wound. You're successful on a 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Uh-oh, AP4, no save. D3 damage, taking them out of action. That's dice mitigation. It's redundant in the form of that you have a lot of guys to try to do this, and it's to a point to where all of them have really good odds, and you have a lot of guys doing this, all pointing at this. That's how you crush. That's how you make holes in teeth. So that's step 1, dice mitigation. All right, so now we're going to move on to step number 2, and this is what I call security. The TLDR here is there is no easy counter. Too many things in this game have an easy counter. I call these the O-justs, and this is what you need to look out for. Is there a weapon or situation that just deletes your model and just crushes you? Is there a strategy that you can't answer? So examples of the O-justs are, oh, just take flamers, or oh, just take plasma, or oh, just drop a gunner from reserves and kill the leader. So, conversely, and if you're 1B, do you get shut down with a piece of war gear, such as a storm shield? So we talked about plasmas quite a bit, but it's like, okay, are you now going to take enough plasmas to beat down the wall of a storm shield or something to that effect? So step number 2 is, again, not having an easy counter available to the other guy. There's not a win button that they just, yeah, of course, when you're playing this, you just take this thing. There's a lot of things in the game that are that way. Flamers just wipe them out. Plasmas just wipe them out. Or like my Gaunt spam, right? What was it? WWO that we just saw, the Nova. People could just come in on those open boards and slaughter. I was doing really well with Tyranids when I was prepping for the arena board for Nova, but then when I started looking at open board, it was just like, oh my god, I'm just getting deleted here. There was no counter to that. There was like nothing I could do other than keep my guy in reserves, and be down a CP and stuff like that till the later part of the game, which I need him on the board to be giving me those buffs to my leadership anyway. So yeah, it was just deadly and awful, and there was that easy counter, so I had to just not bring them. Yes, it was only on 50% of boards, but you know what? I can't have 50% of boards just totally mean I'm getting wrecked. That's not good enough for where you want to be, kind of, going into a tournament. So again, number 2 is security. You're looking for things that have no easy counter. So let's look at Space Marines. For a long time, the thing was just take plasma. Now they have storm shields after elites, but they didn't have that. That's why people a lot of times were playing Death Watch before Astartes got those storm shields, was because they just had no answer to the plasma. Looking back in time, that was a very clear O-just that would wipe them out. So they were not able to do amazingly well at tournaments until elites came out and gave them the ability with their veterans and stuff to take storm shields. Now they've mitigated that, and this team can go and do really well. But after you've kind of decided on which way you're going with a pack, you need to now go in and think about factions and evaluate them on whether or not there's an easy counter or not. If there's an easy counter, you do not take that team. As unfortunate as it is, it's just the way it is. Harlequins. Oh, just take Psychic, right? They're going to have that Psychic matchup eventually, Thousand Suns, Grey Knight, something like that they have no answer for, and that's going to stall your tournament run. So you don't take them because you're afraid of that. And you don't want to have that situation show up where the RNG, the dice gods, just come and hand you a loss and wreck your tournament run. You want to be in control. So things like Tau, things like, what is the counter to shield drones? What is the counter? Really just think about that for a minute. 4-up save, 4-up invuln, AP is nothing. 5-up FNP, you have to roll an injury roll to take them out. Are they in cover? Because now they only go out of action on a 5 or a 6. What is the answer? What is the just easy, I just do this? Some teams don't have that, like some other teams do. And you want a team, you want a build that doesn't have the easy out for the other guy to just come in, because these players you're playing against, guys, are good. The skill level is getting better all the time. And you'll see somebody who's only been playing a few months that's just like, they'll snake a win off of somebody really good. Like, oh my god, this is a veteran player that just took a little loss there. And so these people are going to know what to do when they see your T3 horde. Another thing that has made Tyranids really struggle is they have an O-just with like flamers and frag cannons and anything that splits shots and auto hits and puts a lot of things down, because they only have a 6-up save. They're only T3. Strength 6 is wounding them on 2s, so that frag cannon comes down and goes, Bert, there goes your team. That is an O-just. And since that team has an O-just, I can't play them anymore when you care about the outcome. I'm still going to play them for fun. I love the team. I love the play style. But you know what? There's stuff that does that same thing, and they don't have the O-just. Another thing, Eldar. What is the counter to Eldar? They're kind of they're a T3 faction, but they're kind of like an elite T3. And Flamers don't just do it. You try to go shooting, well, they have really good shooting. You try to go melee, well, they have really good melee. You want to go positional, well, they have a lot of bodies too. If that's what the win condition is, they can take a lot of bodies. It's like there's no easy kind of just puzzle piece to push down, it just fits perfectly that you're going to find to go against that team. There's things that do well, Blood Angels, Astartes and stuff can wreck their day. But, in general, that's not something that's available to a lot of teams, like how Plasma was against Astartes back in the day. So that's step number 2, TLDR. is you need stuff that has no easy counter. So you're going for mitigation in step 1, A or B, which way you're choosing. Step 2 is now selecting a team that does A or B that has no easy counter. Look at Imperial Guard, right? Now that Gottfried's in. Again, Imperial Guard, they used to just fold against like Gene Stealer spam, right? You'd come in there and you'd just get in and crush, and then they'd get like one turn to shoot you off the board, and that was it. Now they have quality melee stuff. You know, they're taking Catachan. They have a Tempester with a Power Fist and all this stuff. They have a Sergeant with the Power Sword. They have Gottfried de Montabard, or whatever his name is. They have Pious Forn. So the O just went away for them. Now Guard is super, you know, they were already winning tournaments, but now they're even better because the O just that people did have went away. Let's look at Necrons. The only O just that I could find when I was prepping specifically to beat Necrons, thinking that I would be facing them, is to roll more injury rolls. Like, now I'm dependent on dice, all this stuff. Like, that's all there is really to it. There's not a huge easy counter. They don't like AP. They don't like 1 damage. But a lot of stuff that has really good AP is multiple damage. And that starts to now affect their odds for getting a 6. Or, you know, adding another dice with that tactic that they have. It gets really hard to kind of deal with that. And you want to be playing one of the teams that's really hard to deal with. You don't want a win button that the other guy can just press. So again, things like Guard, things like Necrons, things like Eldar, things like Tau drones, all of these are, you know, really good. Storm shields, right? What is the O just against a storm shield? They got to go volume now. They're trying to beat you with volume. Like, it makes no sense to take AP now, which is normally what you would have taken against Marines. If you're expecting the storm shields, you don't want to take the AP because a lot of times that took extra points to get that, and it's still a 3-up on them. So what do? Do you spam things that you know, try and break through that? Like, you're putting these decisions on the other player now, and that's a strength. That's a position of power, kind of. You don't want to be easily countered. So you're mitigating the dice. You can roll nothing and still be okay. And now you enter step 2. The faction has no easy answer. And now we're going to move on to step number 3, what I call qualification. What the heck does that mean? Qualification. Step number 3. Find all the things that are similar and make sure that the faction you're picking, the build that you're picking, is the best one, or that it's nearly impossible to choose between a couple choices. Because there's a lot of things that, you know, once you've gotten down, you've said, okay, I'm going positional, or okay, I'm going killy. This is kind of how the formula is to that. I've got these stacks, I've got this mitigation in. Now you've gone on to step 2, you've done all the things with step 2, you've made sure, okay, that there's no, you know, easy counter or something like that. Now with step 3, you're distilling this even further because you're saying to yourself, all right, these 3 factions or whatever it happens to be fit this. I can get these models, whatever it happens to be, but you're making sure that it's the best one, or that they're so similar at the job, so similar with what's going to be on the board that there isn't a clear winner, and then you're just kind of going with what feels the best. So let's look at an example here. Let's say like cultist spam, right? There's a few different versions of that, but we'll just go with like Gene Stealer cults or Heretic Astartes. You've gone through step 1, you've gone through step 2, and in this theoretical packet, you've said cultist spam is the best, but which one? So now what you're doing in step 3 is you're comparing, you're qualifying to find the best cultist spam list. Because with GSC to cultist spam from heretics, there are differences. They're a very similar build, but what are some of the differences that you can find? Gene Stealer cults gets a sub-faction buff. Heretic Astartes does not. So, you know, you're going to be strength 4 or something with plus 2 inches on your advances. If you take Gene Stealer cults and do Twisted Helix, you're not going to have any of that with the cultist spam. So it's like they looked very similar. You said, hey, cultist spam's the way to go, but one's getting a sub-faction, the other is not. That's big. They're moving 2 more inches on advance. They're +1 strength, even though they're basically the exact same build. Gene Stealer cults also have pre-game movement with the cult ambush. Does Heretic Astartes have that? No. So what is the qualification telling you here? If you had these 2 options, one now is clearly superior. Let's keep going. Gene Stealer cults, they have better leadership than Heretic Astartes. Another reason why, if cultist spam was the way that you're going, it should be Gene Stealer cults. And let's look at now how Gene Stealer cults, if you're just going to go at 100 points, take, 20 bodies, whatever, cultist spam. We're not talking about berserkers, anything like that. You've decided cultist spam is the way to go. Gene Stealer cults has more access to special weapons than Heretic Astartes do. So, all of this basically has pointed to Gene Stealer cults being the better of the 2. And that's what you're going to try to do in this step number 3. Is you've said, okay, step number 1, this is kind of what I'm doing. Step number 2, these are the factions that do it, that don't have an easy counter. Now you're going to step 3. You're seeing if multiple things kind of ticked those boxes and are leaning the same way, but you're trying your best to find out which team is the better. Which does this most? Because there's a lot of similar things in the game. You look at just going positional, you could do Zangor spam, you could do Hormigaunt spam, you could do Pink Horror spam, you could do Cultist spam with GSC, you could do Cultist spam with Heretics, you could do Poxwalker spam, you could do Drone spam, you could do Guardian Defender Eldar spam, you can do Striking Scorpions. Which is it going to be? The hope is that here you're able to distill and find the one. So that's it. You're looking, like we talked about with the Gene Stealer cult versus Heretic Astartes thing, TLDR, there's very similar builds. Which one does that the best? If the game's only about pure positional, killing does not matter, well, somebody's going to do that better than somebody else. And like we talked about before the podcast, before we jumped into this, you should not be married to a faction. Because if you've decided cultist spam is the way to go, it doesn't matter that you love Heretic Astartes. You should be going Gene Stealer cults. They are clearly the superior way to put 20 5-point guys on the table. Right? I don't think there's any disagreement with that. Like, this should be kind of like empirical, right? Like, it should be where you could take it and put it before me for like peer review, and you would say, yeah, this is definitely, these were your 2 options. This one's the better, however many options it happened to be. Or they're just so close that you can't tell. Like, imagine that Gene Stealer cults didn't get a sub-faction, didn't have cult ambush, all this stuff, whatever, didn't have better LD, and it was just, 20 guys here with Team A, 20 guys here with Team B. Well, then, yeah, sure, it wouldn't matter. You would just go with whatever you had the, access to the models or something like that. But ideally, you've funneled all of this down to where there's just a couple choices for what's better in the packet, what's going to succeed here, and then now you lay these out and you do an A/B test. You say like, okay, is it door number 1 or door number 2? Because that is going to be the final step. And that's why, like I said, it's really important that you don't do like, oh, I really like steps 1 and 2, but I'm not going to do step 3. Or, oh, I just really like, Thousand Suns, so bodies is the way to go. I'm going to take Zangors. That might not be the way to do it. The way to do it is to find the best team, the best faction, the best build through these steps that lead you here. And if you can do this, you are going to have really solid tournament lists. So that's step 3, is you've distilled things down, you've found the things that work. Again, I'm saying this a bunch of times so that it marinates and gets in. You found what worked. Now you've narrowed things down to just a couple options, and you find which one of those does the thing better. Because you've already said it shouldn't be like, oh, option A or option B at this point on step 3. You decided that already in step 1. You looked at the packet and you said, yeah, Killy is the way to go here. Or, yeah, positional is the way to go here. Now, every other choice is leaning that way. You've taken 50% of the game, basically, and thrown it away after step 1. So now step 2 takes that even further, and you say, look, I need the thing that is going to be the most durable, or the most whatever it happens to be, the thing that has the most security. What is the hardest to counter? And then now you take, maybe you get a couple things there, and this is the final step now in number 3. You're comparing and contrasting. Which one is better? Gene Stealer Cultist Spam, 20 guys on the board, or Heretic Astartes, Cultist Spam, 20 guys on the board? One is the better. And it's your job to find that. If you can, now you have a very focused, specific build. You know what you're trying to do. You know what your secondaries are. Like the muster is no problem, any of this kind of stuff, because you've already figured this out before you stepped to the table, before dice rolled, before you knew what the opponent was doing. Any of this stuff, you already have these decisions out of the way. You've front-loaded this before the tournament started. And you've qualified. You have made it to where this is the strongest thing that you're going to take here. The interesting thing is I believe, even following this step, that people are going to arrive at different results and stuff. And that's like part of the beauty, the art of Kill Team, things like that. It really excites me. I love to see the differences, like the things that people arrived at that said, oh, this is the strongest way to go. It's so cool. Because then now we're talking maybe metagame. Maybe part of their decision was what factions they think are going to be taken against them and things like that. Maybe Heretic Astartes had something else that Gene Stealer Cult didn't for beating Necrons. And we know Necrons are going to be here, just as an example. There's probably nothing like that. But if that was the case, if this 20 model list is better than something else, that's getting now more advanced on top of advanced. But you're not really worried about that at this point, because I think these 3 steps, if your list has been vetted through these 3 steps, your faction choice, all of this stuff, the lists you're taking, the build, this influences the secondaries, this is built upon what the primaries are, and then you've taken, and even at the end, when you've distilled all this down, now you've got a couple choices, and you're doing that final qualification in step 3 to figure out which one of these is the best. Now you're ready to go kill stuff. You're really going to be a lot stronger than what a lot of people do, myself included. I do this a lot of times at tournaments, is just like, oh yeah, you know what, I really like Zenith. I've worked so hard to try to get into Zenith, and right now, you know what's on my mind? Man, I miss Space Wolves. I just really want to play Space Wolves. But should I do that at an invitational that I had to work to get into? Probably not. I can go do that in a blitz, a little RTT, something like that. I can do that in a pickup game with Oodsickle on TTS, just hanging out, on a Sunday morning, something to that effect. You can play the teams you want to play, and sometimes you are just going to go into a tournament and just have fun, just roll dice, just try things out. But ideally, like just speaking from the heart, just honestly, you're going to have more success if you can go through this route. So I hope this helps you. Keep in touch. Let me know what you guys think about this, and if it does help. Remember, those of you listening, this is a freemium episode. A full 50% of this podcast is only available to our supporters on Patreon. Every episode that you see, there's an episode that you don't see unless you're in the Patreon. So it's only $5 a month. You get access to all the episodes that have ever happened. Might be worth considering if you're really into Kill Team and getting better at competitive and stuff. We interview great players. We have people on talking about different specific factions, giving breakdowns for things that help them win tournament lists and take top 8s. We've even recently had a playtester on for a brief moment in a segment, coming on as part of the GW playtest team. So there's a lot of really interesting, fun, cool type stuff in there. There's also like the occasional article that I throw up and whatnot. So I hope this helps you guys. I want to see you succeeding on the board, and I want you to actually try this stuff. It's unfortunate because I know that a lot of you probably won't, but I wish that you would. A lot of people are going to take maybe some of this and not all of it, or they'll take notes and they'll do the things, but then they don't act on it. And you got to act on this, guys. This is what I'm doing. I've won my last 10 consecutive tournament games in a row. I think I'm going to win Nova this year. I'm like one game away, and then the best of 3 finals. 5-0 in the tournament so far. This is what I do. This is what, when I've taken the tournament seriously, and you go and you see me doing well, this is kind of what was behind it. This is how I qualified lists. And when you see a top 8 player that is, repeatedly doing really well with their lists, whether they know it or not, they've engineered it with this kind of a thing. This is just a codification now, a formula for you to get there knowingly. It's not like a happy accident, or I borrowed from somebody else that they did this process already and made a list, because that's unfortunately a lot of people don't make their own lists in this game. They will go with somebody else's builds, and you don't have to do that, guys. It's right here. 3 easy steps. That's it. So I hope it works for you. I wish you guys all the best. We'll be back in 2 weeks with a Patreon exclusive episode. Stay tuned.